So we got two big reveals in the newest chapter of One Piece, 1136, and it has to do with sun god Nika and one of the holy knights by the name of Gunko. So starting with the sun god, we come to Luffy speaking with Jarl, the guy with the sword in his head, and Road, the annoying guy who was chasing them. And Road says that essentially everyone on Elbaf has the dream to become the next sun god and rule the world, but apparently that is divisive because some think that the sun god isn't a ruler and that he's more of a god of liberation or even a god of destruction, but it seems like most agree that he is the god of laughter or something like that. Now, apparently the legend of sun god Nika was passed down in these sacred Harley texts that they have, but it was written in an archaic language, so depending on the translation, there's multiple interpretations. But Jarl goes on to say that according to these Harley texts, the world has already been destroyed twice before, and the name of sun god Nika comes after each instance. And he says, who can say if he was the world's savior or the great destroyer who brought it crashing down? All we know for sure is that he heralds great change. And then we see this depiction of Nika, which is really interesting because he looks different than the original depiction that we saw of him when Who's Who mentioned him. And going by this, I think it means that Nika is just depicted differently in each culture that he is a part of. As we see here, this is like the Elbaf depiction of him, and he has a different type of sword, different type of hair, and a different type of shield. But when we saw the Who's Who variant of Nika, he looked more like a Shandian or something. And I think this also means that Nika wasn't actually like a real person that existed. He was more so like a god that people came up with in times of need. And that's what ultimately led to the creation of his devil fruit that Luffy currently has. Because Vegapunk said, and I'm paraphrasing, that people's dreams led to the creation of devil fruits. Now, if that is true, I'm not really sure if Joy Boy, the first Luffy, was the first person to have the Nika devil fruit, or the second. Because, you know, as Jarl previously said, the world has already been destroyed twice before, and Nika's name came after each instance. And I think that has to do with the big floods that Imu and the Gorosei have done in the past. Now, I don't know if this is all Imu versus Joy Boy, or it was Imu versus somebody before Joy Boy, or there was maybe literally a guy that was like Nika, but not quite a god. Also, if you look at the shield that this variant of Nika had, it's very similar to the symbol that we've seen throughout the series, especially recently in Kuma's flashback. I think this symbol represents what the original allied people of the world look like, what Vegapunk referred to as the ancient kingdom. It's like 9 circles, and I think these are like 9 countries with one singular main country in the middle, and they were all ultimately brought down by the world government and the celestial dragons when they came together. This is also possibly even what the red line originally looked like. It's just these 9 continents all satelliting this one big one. And if that's not what this is, then it could be just planets that orbit the One Piece world, and maybe they were all in unison before Imu brought them all down. But moving on to the second big reveal of this chapter, it's Gunko, the Holy Knight, because we see that she and the implied brother of Shanks here have offered Loki to join the Holy Knights, but he goes on to disrespectfully reject the offer. And this leads to Gunko's form reveal, where she looks young, I guess, and of course is dressed as we would expect Oda to dress women in this series. She also has a hat with like goggles on top, which of course is reminiscent to Koala, and it's very possible she is related to Koala. Kind of resembles her in a way, I guess. Maybe it's her sister. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case here. And we also see Gunko's implied devil fruit here, at least I'm pretty sure it's devil fruit, where she can manipulate these wraps or cloth or whatever, which is coming from the jacket that she's wearing as well, and it ultimately goes into like this arrow. I think that's supposed to parallel to what Imu is implied to be able to do as well, what we saw she shot Sabo and Cobra with back at the Reverie. Also, Gunko's right eye is the inverted color scheme of her left. I'm sure that goes more into symbology with the left and right eyes that Oda likes to play with in this series, such as like how the monkey D's have scars on the left side of their face. It probably has something to do with the greater truth about the One Piece story, whether it's telling what had happened with the Ancient Kingdom or just with Laugh Tale in particular, or something like that. But going off of the spoilers that we got before, Redon said that Gunko's name in Japanese means army child. And I thought that was really interesting because it goes into another theory about the Holy Knights. And it's possible that the Holy Knights were drafted as children to be bred to become them, essentially. And we're also finding out that they probably aren't all celestial dragons. And I just say that based off of them trying to recruit Loki, so it's possible that this has happened many times before. And one of the biggest instances is going back to Big Mom's flashback when we see Mother Caramel with the orphans that she has. And of course, we found out later on that Mother Caramel was selling these orphans to the world government. But if you look at these two orphans, the one with the mask and the one with the crown, it's possible that these individuals grow up to become the Holy Knights that we see in Garling's flashback on God Valley. Now, I don't know if this is for sure confirming that, but that would be fascinating if this is the case, especially this mask. I really don't think this is a coincidence. This is the only instance that we've seen of this mask in the series, as far as I know. And going back to the whole Gunko meaning army child, I think it's possible that she might be an orphan or slave or, I don't know, something like that that was drafted to become a Holy Knight, and it could go back to her being related to or the sister of Koala because she was a slave as well, who was ultimately set free by Fisher Tiger. So this could go more into the duality of this whole arc that Oda has been trying to show us so far, you know, with Shanks and his brother, Loki and Luffy, and how there has been multiple Nikas with at least 2 different iterations of destruction of the world. And it's even possible that in itself is telling us of 2 individuals, maybe not brothers, but either rivals or related in some way. Like Joy Boy might have had a rival or brother or something like that, similar to how we saw with Roger and Rox, and in the current times with Luffy and Blackbeard. All of them trying to go for the same goal, you know, world liberation, but in their own ways. And I think that goes back to what was said earlier in the chapter, how Nika is either a liberating god or a destructing one. But real quick, guys, GamerSupps has a bunch of new great stuff you should pick up, especially today at 3 p.m. Eastern. They're going to have a new drop. But in the meantime, you can check out this waifu cup, which name I can't even say on YouTube. They also have the new cat ear lids for them, which I don't even have myself yet. They also have new great flavors like Only Fox, Pestile's Antidote, Bowberry, and Chug Juice. I'll have the link in the description, guys, and make sure you use my code BIGZ for 10% off. Thanks. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments, guys, and if you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.